And finally, I've got Angus Taylor coming on, the Shadow Treasurer, shortly to discuss the latest inflation numbers, Andrew.
Well, yes, unlike the censure motion, here's some news that has an effect on people's lives. Finally, this blunt instrument of rate rises appears to be having an effect on the inflation rate. The quarterly inflation rate out today had a drop in terms of the previous month's annual inflation figure. Still a long way to go, but this is better than the US and the UK, where inflation seems to go up and up, despite rate rises there. You'll see here what is driving a lot of this, the cost of housing and rent. Look at that, 3.5% rent year on year, the cost of new dwellings, renovations, that sort of thing, up 20%. You raise rates further, I guess you'll see landlords raise rents even further. I think a big priority for the government needs to be freeing up supply chains and getting on top of this building material inflation, because construction is a key part of the economy. My tip then is a 0.25% rise again next week from the Reserve Bank, but we have to hope it is one of the last. Jim Chalmers did point out in question time that these figures do not include the effect of the floods and the effect of an increase in power bills, so watch out for the next figure.
In the data, we saw some pretty big falls in fruit and vegetable prices last month, but this doesn't yet reflect the impact of the flooding. And we're seeing the rate of price growth in new dwellings, which has been a big contributor to inflation to date, continue to fall. But there are good reasons to be very cautious, Mr Speaker, about the inflation numbers released today. It's important to remember that the monthly read is a relatively new data set. It doesn't include everything that the quarterly release does. And also, really importantly, this data doesn't yet fully include the price impacts of the recent floods or the impact from higher energy costs in recent months that are yet to fully show up in the reported figures. All things considered, Mr Speaker, this result is cautiously welcome. It shows us there are reasons to be carefully optimistic that we are getting near the inflationary peak, but we are not there yet.